me on HogvilleNET YouTube live here at, I guess it's, happy hour somewhere, just after 5 o'clock Friday afternoon. We were on earlier today, but we've got breaking news, and this is something I've been working on, trying to put source information together since about 1:30. And so I got came in with one source telling me that either Sunday or Monday they were hearing that Malik Euan might be coming to Arkansas, which I thought, well, you're hearing about some of these Sunday, Monday visits, like with Ian Jackson to St. John. So I'm sitting there trying to piece that together, scrambling around, trying to get another source to firm up, well, which is it? Is that true? Or would it be sooner? Because I was also hearing that there might be someone on campus already, someone of height, 6'9", 6'10". So I just wanted to clarify things. I've been working on, and I put a little snippet at some point on hogville.net that I was working on getting another source. Well, I've gotten that other source now that, in fact, Malik Euan, the Florida State big man transfer, 6'11", 240 plus, 14.2 points per game, 7.6 rebounds, almost a 60% field goal shooter, 1.7 assists per game. Not really a rim protector, but a guy that we've talked about, the last few days. We've confirmed that all his paperwork has gone through to be a Razorback, and now it was a matter of time to get his visit in, and that's going to happen on Monday. Again, two sources now. One of them still not sure if it's going to be Sunday or Monday when he arrives. Another one has confirmed Monday. And then someone inside the building over there, that's how I phrase that, basically gave a nod to the effort, the efforting to make this happen. So there's that on top of that. Now, this is what's interesting about visits. I'm not sure if there is a visitor on campus today. Like I said, I've been, it may just be rumor, but I'm trying to figure it out, especially with the Ewin visit news. Who's a big that might be on campus right now. But you got to remember something, and this is why, if we don't see a visitor on campus, confirmed for today and tomorrow, we'll see about that. But I've got another source connected with the NBA, a scout, and scouts have been around the Nike Hoop Summit all week since the players have been there. Specifically, guys like Darius Acuff Jr., Malik Thomas has been up there. He's not been on one of the rosters. But they bring a lot of folks in for different things as they do a lead up. They'll have a scrimmage tonight. They're doing scrimmages. And then the game is tomorrow night, the actual game, the Nike Hoop Summit, Team USA versus the world, where Darius Acuff Jr. and Nate Ament are both in that game, right? And Arkansas has been recruiting Nate Ament. Well, the recruiting dead period ended on Thursday, yesterday. And we've been talking about, well, that means visits can happen. Players can go visit. But now we're back to a recruiting period. And so, Calipari, in theory, could be trying to plan to go out to Portland to attend that. That's what one NBA scout is hearing. He hasn't confirmed that it's happening, just that he's hearing Cal might be coming out for that. He's got one signed player playing in that game, Acuff Jr., but he's also recruiting Nate Ament, and we don't know for sure if an announcement's made on Ament as rumored today for Duke, or another day maybe for Duke. Maybe it's somebody else. Maybe it's Arkansas. So that would impact, if Calipari's traveling, that would impact. So I'm bringing you a little bit more source information about the moves that might impact visits. But right now, I've confirmed Malik Euan on Monday. And again, if he arrives Sunday, I don't know if that's just the travel day or if his visit can actually start that day. Maybe Monday's the main part of it when they're going to go do most of the stuff that they plan to do for that visit. And for those that, as you know, we've been talking the last several days, not only about the paperwork being done, the silent commit. You'll have some people say, well, there's no such thing as a silent commit. Until it's official, it may not be real, right, in that sense. But there are such things because they're kept a lot. And so when it goes public, for Arkansas, it's a matter of, it would have probably gone public sooner if not for the process that Calipari has and the expectation they must be on campus. This is falling in line. So a couple of more things going on here. He did put out a list: Auburn, Virginia, Mississippi State, obviously Arkansas is on there, and Kansas, talking about Malik Euan. But again, we said that his list could have just come out. A lot of players are putting those out, and they already know where they're going, and they just want their list out. It's a little extra spiff, I guess, for them. Some don't bother with that coming out of the portal. You see more lists with high school guys, but you see a lot with portal guys too. You do. At least the initial contacts. You don't always see with the portal guys, the older guys. I've narrowed it down to you see a lot of it, but it may not be as frequent in terms of numbers like you would ratio wise, like you would with high school players, but they are out there. So the point is that maybe that list is just, performative, and it's not really a serious list at this point. I guess we'll find out, but everything's in line for him to go ahead and sew it up and then make a commitment announcement. If he actually takes more visits after Arkansas, that might mean somewhere along the line on the NIL part of it, what someone else is promising and what Arkansas's valuation range is, does not line up anymore. And that would end up then being a catch and release. Okay, you go. We got other folks, we got other fish in the fryer. Nick Pringle, I keep hearing more and more that he's probably been on campus before the dead period, which means we could hear at any moment. Remember the other day, I was thinking maybe the commitment announcement was at Wednesday. It might come out. Here we are to Friday. Maybe it happens today, tonight. Maybe it's happening while I do this. Maybe over the weekend. And if those reports that he was on campus are wrong, I haven't been able to confirm that, then he'll have to visit based on Calipari's process unless he makes an exception or changes midstream. Again, I always throw out the maybes because things change. Calipari looks like he's changing on his 9 deep and going to an 11 deep. But we've been saying for a while, Arkansas's got to have 2 big men. They got to have quality big men. Malik Euan checks that box. He had, I think I mentioned this the other day, he had 9 double-doubles this past season, and he had a 5-game stretch in January against ACC teams. So it wasn't, he wasn't racking up double-doubles against cream puff non-conference opponents, but he brings a lot to the table. He's a guy that's got some Janai Broom. If you pitch the ball to Janai 15 feet or further on either side of the lane or out or a little higher out front, he can back his guy down. He's got enough good ball handling where you can ISO him further away from the basket. Well, Malik Euan can do that. He's not going to shoot threes. Broom will. Ewan's not proficient there, but the back down part and getting into some finishing angles will do it. Yeah, I think this is the next step. I keep describing what always happens. You get to the point where a player's, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm coming to Arkansas. They get the paperwork done on the back end. They're ready. They're going to get this visit out of the way. And it's that same conveyor belt. It was like that with every single player that Calipari got in that 9 deep, except for Trevor Brazile, because he's already on campus, right? He was already part of the program from the previous staff. So he didn't have to have a formal visit. He wasn't traveling to visit. So you get the point. So here we are again. And there was an exception this year with the international player because he's overseas right now. He's already going through all his process, already publicly committed and trying to get here for summer session 1. I went through those updates. His paperwork's been cleared through the U of A. The NCAA has cleared him. He's still working on his student visa. That was my reporting either yesterday or the day before. It's all running together. I've done 2 of these now. So we're gonna probably cut it off around 10 minutes. This to me is just the next to final step with Malik Euan. I think the next thing we're going to hear is an Arkansas commitment. And if we don't, it's possible that he takes other visits. And I look at that as there was something with NIL, some other promise that, let's say it's Auburn or Kansas or someone else is making to him that exceeds what Arkansas is willing to go there with him. I will be surprised if he takes this visit to Arkansas and takes other visits and then ends up being a Razorback. I don't think Calipari does it that way. I don't with this stuff. It didn't happen that way last year. High school recruiting is different. Guys like Darius Acuff Jr. and Malik Thomas both took visits to Arkansas, and later their last visit was UConn, and Arkansas was getting them. But in the portal stuff, it's been pretty clear going back to last year how it all landed. I don't believe there was another portal player that Arkansas took a commitment from that took another visit, private commitment, and took another visit after visiting Arkansas, and then ended up being a Razorback. And again, you had I went through the scenario with Brandon Garrison. Arkansas has Nick Pringle in the fold as well. That could be announced publicly at any moment if he's already visited, which I'm hearing more and more he probably did. If he hasn't, he'll have to do it. I'm repeating that. But let's say that at some point, Ewan's thinking, okay, I've got this guy that I'm competing with on the front court for time, and this school's giving me the same amount of NIL or a little bit more or maybe a lot more, and that's enough, or a different or a role that I'm not competing as much, maybe for the. I mean, there could be scenarios that flip this, but that's what happened with Brandon Garrison last year. It was about NIL for him. It wasn't about the role as much. It was about NIL. And Arkansas was Jonas Adu was their number one priority at that spot. So it's not like Arkansas had to settle for next up. It was, Garrison was kind of the backup plan and be part of that front line depth. And you wouldn't have gotten Trevor Brazile. I mentioned that the other day. Then you wouldn't have retained Trevor Brazile because that would have rounded out your 9 deep on the front line with Big Z already committed and Jonas Adu Thero as well. All right, so we're going to wrap things up. How much influence is the new Arkansas GM having in the basketball NIL offers? It's a great question. I don't know what Calipari's tapping into in terms of what he brings to the table, because Calipari's had no problems, no issues whatsoever that I'm aware of handling this stuff and getting what he wants. So I'm not saying that can't be a useful resource. I'm not saying that they're not delegating certain things and got some plan to interact with Remy Cofield and whoever's under his watch. But I don't know all the answers to that, but I would be surprised. How about Stevenson from Alabama, another guy that maybe was on campus today? Could it have been Keyshawn Murphy? Was there anybody really on campus? Was it one of those tall GAs walking around and somebody saw that? I don't know. I can't confirm it. I'm calling that a rumor, but I'm hearing it. And anytime the doors just open back up to visit season, and we know Arkansas still technically doesn't have any commitments on the board publicly, then we know the visits have to happen for Calipari to allow that to happen. I'm chasing down rumors at this point. Sometimes you do that anyway, but especially right now. So the news here is Malik Euan's going to take his visit to Arkansas, but I guess no later than Monday, I guess is the best way to put it. Why isn't Cal trying? And we were talking about Jerron Pierre Jr. earlier in my conversation with him and his, basically, either not sure if he was going to take any more visits. He's visited SMU. That may be the front runner. Ole Miss has really been on him. And I heard Ole Miss, was going to step up to, on some level with his NIL. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how serious Ole Miss was there. Maybe Auburn's serious about it. I just don't know fully on that. But I brought up the Nate Ament, the Darius Acuff, and the Nike Hoop Summit because if there's a possibility that Calipari is going to be going to Portland, that'll take up a good chunk of his weekend for that game tomorrow. It could be one of those, he just goes tomorrow and gets back at, late and he's back for Sunday if that's when Ewan's arriving. Or maybe they're trying to still figure that out and they are pushing it to Monday to make sure that, and I don't know that Calipari's going. Like I said, I've talked to an NBA scout that's got his paying attention to the Nike Hoop Summit. He's hearing maybe Calipari's going to come out there. So we'll see about that. It does impact what you can do this weekend in terms of visitors. Man, it's fun doing these sometimes when it's something to report. A lot of people were down at HogvilleNET on the message board. A lot of them are, they're attacking the messenger or they're just attacking the whole situation, frustrated with it. I get it, man. And they're like, well, you're telling us the paperwork's done, but now he puts a list out. Yeah. Again, some of this stuff is performative. Some of it's about timing. And it's the fog of war. Recruiting is war. I use that reference now. The fog of war. Some of the information's a little bit delayed. Some of it's real time. Some of it, again, it's a smoke screen. Players have smoke screens. Yeah, all these schools want me. I'm going to maybe visit here and there. And we already know enough about it to know, man, you've told Arkansas you're coming here. They've got you ready up, approved through the school now. Things can change, but if he's coming on this visit now, that pretty much tells you that Arkansas didn't move away from him or him from Arkansas. And I'll be surprised if he ends up taking any more visits after that, despite that list that just came out yesterday. That's what I'm trying to convey. It's clear as mud, right? Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. I'm Kevin McPherson. I'm already in my pajamas. I've got the pocket tee on. I've got like 1,000 of these. And look, okay, so let's just say now we feel good about still. I've said it earlier today. I said it yesterday, even though some of this stuff we started talking about looked like something could be shifting. I said I felt good about both of these guys still being on board. I didn't change that. I just laid out the possibilities. But that's always the possibilities, even if Ewin hadn't put a list out. You're still waiting to get them on campus. and you're still waiting that before you can have a public announcement anyway. So, I talked earlier today about, feeling great about Darius Acuff Jr. and Malik Thomas in terms of, they're going to have significant roles planned for them. They didn't come here for anything else. And guys like Carter Knox and Billy Richmond III and Trevor Brazile made huge strides in the last third of the season, and they're going to bring a lot of quality to the table. So that's 5 of your top 9 rotation. Yes, you're shifting to 11, you're adding 2 more, but the 2 backing guys I keep saying look to me to be Isaiah Sealy and Kareem Artal. I talked earlier about some small ball possibilities, but with that core 5 that you already have, and now let's say Ewin, let's say we're inching even closer to that becoming a reality and becoming known to the world, that's 6. Pringle's probably 7 there, right? And so the name I've left out just for the moment is DJ Wagner. It may be there's more and more momentum that he's going to stick around. So that's what, 8, 4 signed before portal season, high school and Artal, 4 out of retention, that's 8. Then you throw in Pringle and Ewin, and what does that get you to? That gets you to 10. So now you're down to what is your biggest need? I went through the small ball stuff earlier today and how if you went and got a Jerron Pierre Jr. or some other shooting guard. By the way, I think Ian Jackson, we were talking about him, he's got that Sunday, Monday to St. John's. I think he's taking a visit today somewhere. I'm not sure what it was, a different school, another school, not that didn't have the Arkansas Razorbacks logo ablaze. So it's not the Hogs. So that seems like not likely to happen, this weekend for, based on that. USC, okay. Southern Cal. And that's the great question. That was my point. Cal can go to watch Acuff, but Ament's there. And so is he there so that he's saying, is that another, here I am for Ament? Or does he already know we're out and I'm just going to support Acuff and look and see other players on the world team and guys he might want to still recruit, at some point. There's all kinds of reasons to do that. But those would be the 2 main ones, is in support of Acuff and also Nate Ament, if Arkansas may still be in it. But it's interesting, if he does make that trek, we can speculate about that until if and when Ament makes a commitment. So all the smoke about where this is going and maybe it's Duke, okay, maybe it is. But I'm telling you, that bag was big and Arkansas could expand on it. And, if Calipari ends up going out there, I'm not trying to tell you he is, but he might. Thanks again. I really am going to try to sign off here. I was trying to get to the numbers, and I think I was kind of clunky with it. But at the end of the day, you're probably not getting a ton out of the portal, even if DJ goes in, outside of the 2 big men, either 1 or maybe 2 more, and you could piece it together as a backup for another 4 to complement Trevor Brazile, or a 3-4 that's versatile there. You could go get another guard that's a shooter. We keep talking about Jerron Pierre Jr. Who else, might be out there? We just threw out what's going on with Ian Jackson. Doesn't mean you couldn't bring him in for a visit later. There are other guards. By the way, I've talked about Duke Miles, and we were talking about him the other night from OU, and I mentioned he's not as much of a alpha stat guy, but a very efficient shooter. 6'2", quick twitch guy out of OU. He was a mid-major guy before that. I think he was at Troy for 3 years, and then he was at High Point. And then he goes to OU and averaged 9.5 points in that guard rotation, Duke Miles, and shot over 51% overall from the field, 43% from 3, and like 83% from the free throw line. You'd love to have a guy like that. 2.5 rebounds, 2 assists a game, get 1.5 steals. You'd love to have a guy like that in your rotation. No, he's not big, but he's a veteran guy. He's been through the SEC wars. He's highly efficient. So there's more than one way you could plug and place. And he's a guy that just committed to Virginia, 2 or 3 days ago, when I brought his name up during the segment, and on the comments, folks were telling me, oh, he's at Virginia. And I'm like, oh, must have missed that. I checked before I came on. I never knew he committed. And then I determined when I got off the segment, I went and looked it up. He literally committed 15, 20 minutes after I'd already started. And I had no way to know it while I was doing the segment. Well, guess what, kids? He's decommitted from Virginia. That came out today. You know, you're seeing a Caden Lewis back out from from his sign or whatever. He was with out of the high school ranks, top 25 guy, bolting on his national letter of intent with Kentucky. It's all crazy. That's what I'm saying. Don't get mad just because you're an Arkansas fan and we're bringing you intel and it may not play out exactly like your ears want to believe and your mind wants to believe it should. It's chaos all over the place. It might be a good thing that you haven't heard a ton of names visiting Arkansas yet, or that it's a little slower with announcements because a lot of these are going fast. Some of them are falling apart, and I don't think Calipari operates that way. I say it all the time. He's very measured. He's got his way, and it just tends to work out great over and over. Not that it's perfect, but it tends to work out really well. All right, I'm 21 minutes in. Going to sign off for real now. Maybe something will break soon here. Maybe it did while I was on here and you told me in the comments and I missed it. Thanks for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. Please hit subscribe, like, and share. Please turn on the notifications. I'm coming back on today if necessary if something breaks or as soon as it does. I may come on tomorrow whether something's breaking or not. We just want to talk about stuff. Appreciate you being here. Yeah, we've been talking about some of the high school stuff. I know the comments are still rolling. You can check some of that out. I did yesterday, Tyron Stokes and some other high school talk, possibilities for reclass, things like that. So some of that we've already covered. But until next time, thanks for being here. Appreciate you. See you soon.